Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. Welcome to Web3 Warriors, episode 32, featuring Karen Shidlo from Fiat24, which is a Swiss banking in Web3 company. It's going to be really interesting. Welcome, Karen. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me here. It's really a pleasure to be with you here, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for joining. I'm really interested in hearing more about Fiat24 and having a conversation around crypto regulations and the future of crypto and its impact on banking and its impact on the NFT community. Welcome again, everybody, to Web3 Warriors. I'm David Krome, your host. I go by Krome in the metaverse, and today we will be talking about crypto regulations and their impact potentially on the NFT community, and really just how we see this entire creator economy, built on blockchain technology evolving into the future. We focus very much on the creativity and the developers and the makers and the builders in this Web3 space because that is exciting and that is the heart of the creator economy. But when push comes to shove in this space, ultimately it comes down to the value of crypto. It comes down to the technology of blockchain being reliable and the value of whether it's Ethereum, whether it's Solana, whether it's Bitcoin, but that blockchain currency that you're working with having value into the future, right? The promise of a lot of the NFTs, the non-fungible tokens, is that they are non-fungible and that they are immutable and that they will live on these blockchains into the future. So when we look at the topic of crypto regulations and we look at the topic of how, we're going to evolve as a society and adopt blockchain technology, adopt cryptocurrency as an avenue for payments and for compensating each other and supporting each other, as is already happening right now, we know, in Web3 and on the blockchain. It's really important to think about, is it going to last forever is really the question, right? And when it comes to crypto regulations, I don't think that any regulations can actually stop the technology, but they can definitely, decrease the value of the currency, the cryptocurrency. We can see that, based on the news, based on the stock markets, macroeconomics. There's all kinds of things that kind of impact the price of crypto, which in turn can impact the creators who are in some cases making their living selling the art on the blockchain, selling their NFTs on the blockchain. And just in the last week, there was an interesting headline that came out of the States talking about potentially banning proof of work crypto, which would include Bitcoin. And their grounds basically is that it's not sustainable, and that proof of work, which requires your CPU or GPU to actually do the mining, is just too hard on the environment. That's their argument basically. And with that, they're looking at potentially trying to ban the technology. Now, I think it's probably more, a scare tactic than it is reality, which is a lot. You have to kind of read the tea leaves sometimes on some of these regulation announcements. But I think it's relevant. If something like that did happen, it would definitely dramatically impact the price of Bitcoin and probably the entire cryptocurrency market, right? So really exciting, topic, a very important topic for the space when looking at crypto regulations and how they're going to impact the creator economy, really, right? The Web3 economy, moving forward, and the NFT creators and the builders in the metaverse and all of that fun stuff, and how they're going to be impacted. So I was really interested looking at Fiat24 and seeing that they want to bring Swiss banking into the metaverse. Now, a lot of people hear banking and blockchain and think that they're kind of oxymorons, right? And they shouldn't be put together. And so it's an interesting concept. I think when looking at bringing Swiss banking into the Web3 metaverse, to me, that sounds like becoming your own bank within the Web3 metaverse, at least. And that's what I hope it would do. So with that, maybe before we get into all the nuts and bolts of what Fiat24 offers, I want to welcome you, Karen, again, and maybe we can just get a little bit of background on yourself and what brings you to crypto, what brings you to Web3, anything you'd like to share before we talk Fiat24 and crypto regulations. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much again. And a little bit about myself. So my background is that I actually started in more traditional advertising, and I worked in marketing for just, I guess you could say, Web2 companies, even for like a supermarket chain and a local bank that we have here in Switzerland. And then I was looking for a new opportunity, and I found that Fiat24 was looking for a marketing person. And to be honest with you, my background has never been in finance or crypto before, but looking into what they offer and then learning about Web3 and DeFi, it really just got me interested about the potential. And yeah, so I started working with them like at the beginning of this year. And I've been so lucky because I've gotten the chance to travel a lot in Switzerland and also abroad, and really to learn more about Web3. And the more that I learn about Web3 and crypto, the more fascinated that I get. So I'm really
That's
proud
exciting.
to be like one of the early adopter people of DeFi.
You're learning from a lot of early adopters.
Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting. So you're taking the crash course then. um,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot to learn, but at the same time, there are a lot of resources everywhere to
yeah,
learn from.
most definitely. And Fiat24, I guess, is it? How long have they been with this concept of, you know, bringing this Swiss banking style to crypto and to, you know, bringing that, I guess it's onboarding and offboarding, right, of crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto, making that easier and making that a more individual thing from what I've gathered in my research here. But yeah, what's their kind of background? How long has Fiat24 been around? And yeah, what's their goal?
So basically, Fiat24 was started in 2018, and the road hasn't been super easy because it took 2 years just to get the fintech license, which is offered in Switzerland by the Swiss financial regulators. And it took just 2 years for the application to get through. And we are fortunate enough to be one of only 3 companies in the whole country to have received one. And essentially what it does is the Swiss financial regulators, they are really interested in becoming one of the most crypto-friendly nations in the world. They want to encourage other people to found and establish their companies here. So basically, they do really work closely with all of these innovative companies like ours, and they do audit us and like do all of the, you know, like, because we do deal with fiat currencies, but they do want us to give companies the chance to explore blockchain and crypto and to see like what it can do.
So
So yes,
the Swiss regulators are very forward looking, it sounds like, when it comes to
yeah, I
blockchain.
mean, they are one of the most friendly countries, actually, and they pride themselves in being as such. Even before crypto, Switzerland has been really proud to be like an innovation hub, and they really support a lot of like companies in different sectors, like even biotech and like the health sector and finance now.
Yeah.
We are very supportive for sure.
And that
But yeah,
makes a big difference.
Fiat24 was founded in 2018, and then it took a while to build our metaverse and like to put everything technologically into place. But from the beginning of this year, we've been super active. We've managed to onboard like 10,000 clients. So yeah, I mean, we continue to grow.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, maybe we'll get on the regulation conversation after, but I'm really curious about specifically the pitch of bringing Swiss banking into the metaverse, right? How do you square, you know, the bankless option, which is kind of the ethos of the blockchain, right? Being able to be bankless and be your own bank, and square that with bringing Swiss banking into the metaverse in a positive way. I'd love to hear, like, what's the big pitch?
Yeah, so basically, I think Switzerland around the world, apart from being famous for cheese and chocolate, one of the stereotypes about Switzerland is the financial offering. And Zurich, where we are based, is the financial hub of the country. I think that having a Swiss bank account is quite valuable and attractive to people around the world, just because I guess like the Swiss financial institutions have been quite famous for like holding money for private clients and for offering a kind of security and offering a trust
And
that maybe
impartiality, right? Being neutral all the
yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah. And so what we really want to do is to be able to offer a Swiss bank account to anyone around the world. And all that you really need to do is to have an Ethereum wallet and a bit of Ether, a mobile phone, some internet connection, and through the NFT that we issue, that effectively becomes your account with us.
That's very
And
cool.
yeah, then basically, so we are not actually a bank, so we don't offer all of the services that a traditional bank does, but we do offer cash accounts on the blockchain, which is quite unique.
So how does that work? Cash accounts on the blockchain, how is that different from maybe your, Coinbase custodial wallet or some of these more traditional exchanges that are used for that kind of function, right? As far as switching your fiat to crypto, and what's the advantage of using this kind of Swiss fintech approved avenue?
Well, first of all, I guess as you already know, in DeFi, because it's not super regulated at the moment, there is maybe a lot of concerns about if the company that you work with or that you trust your money with is not a scam project. So definitely one unique advantage is that we work closely with the Swiss financial regulators, which means that we're really trustworthy and we like to stay transparent. And otherwise, how we're different is, I guess, like the way that we use the NFT technology. So your NFT creates your account with us, and then it can be accessed like no matter where you are in the world, basically.
Right, from your Web3 wallet. So I noticed right now you're on Arbitrum. I know you had spoken about maybe post ETH merge being able to be on layer 1 Ethereum. Now I assume you've been in the Arbitrum, which is a roll up, which is kind of a solution to avoid gas fees, and it's a little bit better than Polygon for various reasons. So you're sending the current NFT is an Arbitrum NFT, right?
Yeah, that's right. But as you said correctly, that after the merge, if the gas fees are low enough, we will go back to the Ethereum mainnet. And later this year and into next year, we plan to move into other protocols too.
Cool. So as of right now, it's essentially Ethereum, and then obviously Arbitrum, but you're not really off-ramping many other cryptos. What about Bitcoin? Is it Bitcoin an option, or?
For now, not, but you could off-ramp wrapped Bitcoin.
Right.
So basically, our preferred wallet is MetaMask at the moment.
Yeah, and so everything that you can hold in MetaMask, you can hold on your Fiat24 account. It's very cool. Yeah. And so back on the topic of regulations, right? When looking at, a project like this, even, I believe right now you're not able to kind of offer accounts to those within America for regulatory reasons. How do you think they really enforce that? And it has more to do with you being approved by the Swiss government, right? And the Swiss regulators wanting to make sure everything's above board, right? When it comes to those kind of international jurisdictions.
Yeah, that's exactly the case because we are really regulated and we work closely with the Swiss financial supervisory authority, which is called FINMA. We are audited, and we really don't, at this point of time, we're not able to deal with countries like the US, where I suppose at this time they're also just trying to find out their own laws and like regulation according to crypto. But apart from the US, we're able to serve everyone.
Oh, okay. It's just those American regulators are too complicated. And how do you think the crypto regulations that are kind of being talked about right now, you can look at it from a European perspective, maybe, because I do think America's, like I just mentioned, with the potential proof of work banning, which would kind of be like a Chinese angle. And I really hope they don't go that route. I don't think they will, but it was apparently something discussed and even tacitly approved by the White House, apparently. So we'll see what becomes of that. But where do you see it going, and how, obviously you mentioned Swiss wanting to be innovative, wanting to be ahead of the curve when it comes to blockchain and really allowing this rail, right? It's basically a payment rail, a system on the blockchain, completely decentralized, to be allowed to kind of flourish and grow. So is that kind of the general sentiment across Europe you see, or what are kind of the competing interests, and how do you think it's going to impact the space?
Well, I think that every country right now is looking at cryptocurrencies a little differently. Some are definitely more welcoming and others are more skeptical. Like you just mentioned about China, about how they are basically trying to do their own CBDC.
Right, and so that's a central bank digital currency.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit concerning because I wonder if the fact that a government is able to issue their own like crypto and have that kind of power, if that will not kind of encourage other countries to do the same. I know that the US is really continuing to progress in developing the federal cryptocurrency legislation. There was the big news from the Biden administration like recently, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because on one hand, Powell and some of the regulators have actually been fairly more like the Swiss, kind of liking the innovation, acknowledging the advantages of blockchain, seeing the value in the peer-to-peer connection. But on the flip side, we definitely see from the same administration a lot of the FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt about the environmental concerns around proof of work mining and the idea that they waste too much energy or use too much energy. I think it's actually driving innovation even on the proof of work side, because you're seeing a lot of Bitcoin miners trying to find alternative energy sources to power their Bitcoin mining. You've seen some places where they actually use natural resources like volcanoes in El Salvador to power their Bitcoin mines, or solar energy, wind energy, hydro energy. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, to actually drive innovation through proof of work, and Bitcoin's not going anywhere. It doesn't matter how many countries try to ban the proof of work system. As we saw with China, right? When they banned their miners, they lost a lot of innovation. They lost a lot of brain power. They lost a lot of their builders who just went to Canada, went to America, and all their mines went with them. And now the hash power, which is, the combined, mining power, which was, I think it was like 60% of hash power before China banned them, was in China. So they actually had an advantage strategically. If you look at it from an international perspective, they had an advantage where 60 or more % of their miners, of the Bitcoin miners in the world, were in China. And so they decided to kick them out. I don't know how small that number is now, but it's definitely significantly smaller. And so on the one side, to your point about their CBDC, and clearly they just didn't want any local competition. And the argument could be made that Bitcoin helps the US dollar more than it helps the yen. So maybe that was part of their calculation as well. But on the point about CBDCs, it looks like America is also looking at their own central bank digital currency, which I think they're going to try to kind of place in the blockchain mix. But to your point, when the government's creating that digital currency, that's no longer, a decentralized cryptocurrency, right? It's really just all of the same negative kind of baggage that you get with fiat is attached to this digital currency. So it's not really a solution the way that Bitcoin is a solution or Ethereum is a solution, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the main reason why governments really want to regulate crypto is because it's an activity that for now cannot really be monitored and controlled by them. But wherever there is kind of a flow of money, I think governments want to take their cut, and crypto is no exception. So I think that regardless of if we're talking about the US or the EU or even Switzerland, I think that governments really want to regulate crypto because it's a really practical means for tax evasion and criminal activity, because all of the crypto payments do not need the clearing authorities of traditional financial systems to operate.
Yeah.
So I think there's really a big interest in all of this right now. And especially if we look at like how maybe we still consider ourselves to be early adopters, but I think that now like a lot more people, maybe even people who are not even into finance, are like starting to pay attention to cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and all of this blockchain stuff, and maybe even a little bit of Web3. So it's kind of coming everywhere. And I think that the governments are definitely interested in seeing like how they will have to interact with crypto, especially because at a certain level, it does touch fiat currencies. So I think in a way, like they kind of have to intervene.
Yeah, they have to be aware, I think. They have to move with the times and adapt their, banking regulations and just general financial regulations to kind of meet the moment, I think, which is what, to your point, I think all governments are assessing and kind of trying to figure out what is the best avenue to do that. But yeah, it's interesting to see, and I think it could go any number of ways. But generally, when a technology is improving society, as blockchain technology is, and as peer-to-peer technology does, and it's adding to the GDP, right? It's adding to the economy. It's creating wealth where there was no wealth before, and that's where I think America and Swiss and Canada and a lot of these Western countries do see the value in that. But to your point, they definitely don't want to let all that new GDP and new money get created without them getting a piece of it, for sure. And it's interesting because there's two avenues I've seen, and one is where you really tax it at the point of off-ramping, right? And I think that is a kind of obvious, legitimate kind of way to tackle this, at the point where you bring the cryptocurrency off the blockchain and into your personal bank account. That's income, right? And at that point, that is included in your overall income and should be taxed. Where I've raised some eyebrows, and I don't know where it's going to go, is looking at like what America's kind of done and taking this SEC kind of securities quote unquote definition and really looking at NFTs and what they're promising on the staking and what you're investing in on chain, and really looking into the minutia of like where your money's gone on chain. I think becomes a really difficult task, for one, and for two, it becomes just encroaching possibly on like personal freedom from my perspective. Because I look at it, I always like to make the comparison to video games, which I know a lot of the blockchain people don't like, but as far as I'm concerned, video games created the ethos, it created the concept of digital world having value, and having actual digital currency that has real world value. There was currency in video games that people were spending real money to acquire long before Bitcoin even happened, So with that mindset, I think that when it's on chain and the currency's on chain and there's transactions happening, but everything's on chain, until you take it off and actually bring it into real world fiat currency, the government shouldn't be even concerned with it. Is that a crazy thought?
No, I think on one hand, you're correct. So I think NFTs are a little bit of a particular case, but somehow they are connected to crypto because I guess the main way that people buy NFTs or get involved with them is through crypto. So the first point of entry for regulators right now is to assess how they can claim their stake on cryptos. But when we talk about NFTs, I think that there are a lot of different NFTs. So there are like the PFP NFTs, and then there's also utility tokens. And I think that kind of makes it a little bit complex because there are some use cases where NFTs don't really need to be regulated. So for example, like where some NFTs are just like trading cards, I mean, trying to regulate them would be like putting curbs on playing cards. Right. I think that's what makes the legal issues around NFTs so complex. But because NFTs can also be redeemed for fiat, it kind of makes a case for them to be considered as a value substituting currency. So I think that because there is the connection with cryptocurrencies, like I just think that there is this kind of interest. Also, if we see some of the prices that are going around for NFTs right now, like the every days, the first 5,000 days, which sold for $69 million, and then Jack Dorsey's Twitter, which sold for like 2.9 million, then of course like the regulators are going to start looking at it. But I think in the case of NFTs, it's a little bit to understand the exact value, and also because of how people buy them. I think that there's still a lot of anonymity around it, so it's kind of like hard for maybe like a body like the IRS to really like track who's buying what,
Yeah, and I think to a certain extent that's always kind of be the case, and that's why you do have things like what China did, just taking the extreme step to be like, we don't want any crypto in here, get it out, and there are a couple other countries that have attempted this as well. But whether it's China or anywhere else, you better believe underground, there's still people mining Bitcoin. There's still people making Bitcoin transactions. And I really believe no matter what, even if every government on the planet tried to shut it down at this point, the value would probably go down significantly, but the technology is not going to disappear. And more importantly, you look at what Ethereum's doing, and they're really trying to take, you could say ESG, environmental, social, and governance, kind of sustainability into account, right? And so that's where this whole merge is coming from, right? They're trying to go from proof of work to proof of stake. And with that, I think their hope is that they get a little bit more love from the regulators, and they're able to position themselves, as a continuing to lead this kind of blockchain evolution. And hopefully, I know they're trying to position themselves ahead of Bitcoin because of the fact that they do have NFTs on their blockchain, right? They do have the programmability. And so with that, as we're talking about on this show every week, the creator economy is just going to explode. And there are other chains that offer it as well. Solana, maybe Tezos, that offer that programmability, maybe at faster speeds. But Ethereum has really got that first mover's advantage. And they're also by far the most decentralized of the programmable blockchains. So it's going to be really interesting to see if their move to kind of be more ESG and environmentally friendly, quote unquote, with their proof of stake really helps them from a regulatory perspective. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that the merge is going to be good or bad or indifferent? What do you think? It's coming on this week, right?
I think that we kind of have to wait and see a little bit. The promise is good. And from what I've read a lot about online, it's like one of the biggest crypto news things, like stories to be out there right now, like one of the biggest impacts. I mean, obviously, if they can like increase the speed and also to also provide lower gas fees, it will already be a huge step. So
That would be huge, yeah.
I think we just need to wait and see how it goes.
I think,
and it's quite soon, right? It's like in 5 days.
Yes, this week. I think it starts the 15th. And then I think there's questions around what the actual process is going to be and how long the actual merge is going to take to be finalized. It might be a week or two, I think they're saying. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what the impact is, and even just regulation wise, whether it does, improve kind of Ethereum's standing, and really just how things go in the whole way. So looking at this metaverse that you have on the Fiat24 site and the fact that you're, utilizing the NFT, so you would say that account NFT is kind of a utility token, right?
Yeah, for sure. So the NFT that we issue is basically like when you open a traditional bank account, you have to give your data. Maybe they give you a username and a password for your e-banking. But with the NFT, we give you your account number, your avatar, and then it also holds all of the transactions that you make. And in regards to how it works with our metaverse is kind of just like a side project, but effectively it's a world map where anyone can buy land using our F24 tokens. And when you buy land, it's like a showcase for your brand. So you have your logo, we link to your website and your Twitter, and we also have a QR code where any of our Fiat24 clients, when they scan the QR code, they can immediately just buy with you.
Oh, interesting.
So it kind of acts like a branding awareness.
So do you foresee it as almost like a metaverse Shopify, or, where people are kind of setting up their little shops?
Yeah, I think that would be cool because, for example, I mean, the way that we personally think about NFTs is that it really goes beyond all of the monkeys and the kitties. There's really utility there.
Yeah.
And for example, people, maybe you want to go to a cinema or a movie theater and you want to buy a ticket. I mean, you could do that from our metaverse directly. So, I mean, even at the most rudimentary level of even entertainment or your daily life.
So how does that work? Let's say a movie ticket, for example, right? So would the theater have to essentially be on the metaverse, sign up with you? Or is it just a scenario where maybe you could connect to the theater site on your metaverse lot and just buy the ticket through your crypto?
Well, we do allow both private people and businesses to buy land in our metaverse, but if you have a business, of course, then there's an opportunity to sell something. So
very cool. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how. It's really cool. I can foresee this being very functional in a future where people want to do a one-stop shop and see what's available and be able to pay in crypto, most importantly. Yeah, it's a really neat idea for sure. And so you said you're moving from Arbitrum to Ethereum if the merge results in lower gas fees. I do think that I think I saw somewhere that Vitalik was saying it might not lead to like super low gas fees, but at the very least it would be like a more consistent and kind of flatline gas fee that you could at least be aware of, and it's not as like dramatically kind of up and down based on the gas, because gas won't function the same way, right? Or the GUI won't function the same way under proof of work. Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting piece to see how it works. So I'm curious, yeah, sorry, continue.
No, you can go ahead.
No, if you had something to say on that, I was going to go to a different topic.
Well, considering that I personally have been speaking to like a lot of crypto players, and I think that one barrier that they have found with our offering has been the fact that we are on Arbitrum, because it means that even if you have Ethereum, you still have to bridge it to an Arbitrum Ether. And I think that if we have the potential just to be on Ethereum mainnet, it will already allow people to onboard much more easily. So hopefully it all goes well.
Yeah, it's interesting how that the bridge is still a pain point for people. I mean, it costs nothing. It's pretty straightforward, but I guess it just seems like a little bit extra step to take for some people. They
Yeah,
just don't want to do it.
that's exactly why we would also like to expand into other protocols, just to make sure that it's easier for everyone. Because also personally, I only have MetaMask and I am primarily an Ethereum lover. But if other people want to like send me NFTs, or like if I want to buy other tokens, then I have to suddenly install all of these other wallets. And I think, yeah, it's kind of like annoying for people. So I do get it myself, actually.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible. I'm not a dev, but I feel like it's odd that MetaMask isn't able to add a Bitcoin wallet function, and that you have to use wrap Bitcoin. But I guess it's because their whole thing is all on ERC or all Ethereum based, right?
Well, it could be something that changes. I mean, it would be good if there would be a way to maybe simplify the processes, because I know, personally speaking, like I am quite a newbie into the Web3 and crypto space, and I think that there is a steep learning curve. But even then, beyond that, when you actually want to get into dApps or you want to buy NFTs, I mean, then you also have to like learn about all the different protocols and have like a bunch of different wallets or dApps, you know?
Yeah.
I think if we ever want to really go mainstream and bring more Web2 people into Web3, then I think somehow we have to like simplify the onboarding, because that's really a huge barrier. Apart from learning the technology, or even like to be interested in why Web3 is so fascinating and offers something much more promising than Web2. I think one thing is like the technology that really needs to be looked at.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, yeah, that's what we're all about, because it's very easy to, be skeptical, right? Especially when it comes to new technology. But being able to be very confident in the benefits of peer-to-peer transactions, the benefits of a transparent, accountable, immutable blockchain. And we just got to keep, banging that drum, and the word will spread more and more.
Well, actually, I think peer-to-peer payments is not a very new concept, right?
No.
So PayPal or Venmo, or maybe there are some other examples. I think it's not a particularly new concept, but as something that Fiat24 offers, I think peer-to-peer transactions that are done on the blockchain are far more efficient, because you're in Canada, I'm in Switzerland, but if we are peers, then I could just send you money right now, and like you could get it almost instantaneously. And it doesn't matter if it's a weekend or a public holiday, or that we're in different countries. And I think that's such like a nice thing. Like if you've ever experienced the slowness of using like TransferWise, like if I
PayPal's
pay
horrible.
someone in Vietnam, it can take like 5 working days to process.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Exactly. That's what I mean when I say peer-to-peer in the lossless and kind of blockchain setting, and not the Web 2 more traditional kind of setting where it's an option, but their fees are pretty antiquated. Sometimes the timing is kind of crazy. And more importantly, it's just, yeah, being able to not have to jump through a lot of hoops, just straight wallet to wallet, as opposed to setting up an account in your, PayPal or Venmo or whatever. We don't actually get Venmo here in Canada. We're pretty strict on our peer-to-peer stuff in Canada. I think we're just lucky that Ethereum was made in Canada. Maybe they'd be a lot more regular. They'd be a lot more strict on it if it wasn't a Canadian invention, but we'll see how it goes. And under the umbrella of fintech, and I talking to someone in Switzerland where they're really trying to be the at the forefront of the fintech evolution, and not just blockchain, but looking at pay service solutions, looking at other solutions within the fintech space. How do you see it moving, and how do you think blockchain is going to kind of play a role in the broader kind of evolution of fintech, if you have any thoughts on that?
Well, personally, I really appreciate the potential of DeFi. So, I guess a lot of people are really still trusting of banks, but personally, I think if we look also just beyond banks, but also to what Web 2 offers us right now, it seems to be that we have this false impression that because we are content creators, that somehow we have control over our content. It's just not true. Like, if Facebook or Twitter doesn't like what you're doing, if you don't meet their regulations, they can just ban you. And every time that you post something onto Facebook, I think that they just basically own what you have, right?
Yeah, pretty
I
much.
think
They own
that
the content, and they mine it for extra data too. And they use
I know.
whatever you
So,
post to figure out everything they can about you and sell it to the highest bidder.
personally, like, I'm also really interested in DAOs. I'm also really interested in like giving power to the people. And I think also financially speaking, like, I personally would prefer to deal with my peers than to just maybe blindly trust a bank. I
Yeah.
mean, that, yeah. The promise of Web3, it's not even promised if Web3 will actually come to fruition, right?
As of
I
right
mean,
now,
I
that's the criticism, and that's why I think it's a good time to be involved. Though, for those of us who do have faith in the technology and see where it can go and where it should go, it's a good time for us to be involved and be building, and hopefully be able to turn around in 5 years and say, "I told you so." But nothing's guaranteed. To your point, yeah.
And especially because there are touch points between crypto and fiat currencies, I don't think that any government will really allow us to make transactions and to move money around, and then maybe also cash it out to fiat or to buy crypto with fiat without regulating us. So, the hope is there, but I think somehow, eventually, sooner or later, there will be regulation involved. And then if that's a good thing or not, it remains to be seen.
Yeah, yeah. The regulation is starting already, as we've seen. And to your point about what the Swiss are doing, right? Trying to do regulation in the most kind of forward-thinking and innovative way possible. And, the other side of the coin is banning proof of work, right? Which is just seems extreme and not very helpful, and not very economically smart either, because you're really stifling innovation at that point. And so those are kind of two sides of the extreme, right? On one hand, you have a very friendly, forward-looking blockchain enthusiast maybe in government, and on a regulatory side that actually doesn't want to stop the innovation. And on the other hand, you have the kind of fear of the central currency being undervalued, or tax revenue being lost to the blockchain. And so I do think that there is a good balance, and the Swiss are probably leading the way on it. I think we have some pretty good regulations in Canada so far, but you never know. To your point, all it takes is one or two bad, leaders in government saying, "Oh, this crypto stuff is horrible," and just trying to tear it all down, and the value of crypto will get hit, and the NFT markets will get hit. But I do think Web3 would even survive that kind of attack. but hopefully we can have friends in government. And that's why we host conversations like this, right? You never know what kind of government organizations might be listening, people might be listening, bureaucrats. You know, there's a lot of GDP value, economic value, and yes, tax revenue value in this space, but it needs to be handled in a very kind of thoughtful and, to your point again, innovative way. And I do think that looking at, you know, taxation at the point of off-ramping, at the point of actually becoming true income, would be my limit on government regulations, but I am sure they're going to go above and beyond that, you know.
I think so.
Yeah.
But maybe in terms about how regulation could impact NFTs specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all pretty much know about this, the big scandal with the OpenSea, right?
The one when
And
they were
also,
trying to like
yeah,
boost certain projects on their homepage and then take financial gains from it. They made an
yeah,
example. They made an example out of that guy.
yeah. And also, I think that there are a lot of scam projects. I mean, there is also a lot of rug pull and like wash trading. And I think that maybe in terms of NFTs, like a little bit of regulation could be quite useful.
Well, and
What
it's
do you
that
think?
kind of stuff that is going to guarantee that we get some kind of regulations. I do think that it might be a scenario where, you know, platforms, we already see it with OpenSea, right? They'll deplatform something if it's an out and out scam, right? It does take probably more than it should, maybe in some cases, for them to deplatform stuff, but they do try to do that. Now that doesn't remove it off the blockchain. That doesn't, you know, allow people to scam people in other ways through Discord and other stuff like that. But it is something that really just comes down to do your own research and be very careful, because a lot of these times it's not even like you've been hacked or there's something outside of your control. You've just been convinced to buy into a project that was just, you know, astroturf and not worth any real value. So yeah, it's unfortunate side of the NFT market for sure. But you could make the argument that that part of the stock markets, you know, that's part of the business markets. You know, there's people out there in the real world making similar pitches and getting people to waste their money on similar things, you know, in the business world. And so it's part of it, but we definitely don't like to dwell on that side of things. And it's easy to dwell on that side of things because it is a real problem, and we're just evolving, you know, and I do think that is going to be one of the reasons why regulators come, for sure. We do got a question in the chat, so I want to thank Meta Screenplays. Rick, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. He says, when will we be able to purchase NFTs no matter the blockchain just using my debit card? No, we have not answered that question. It's an interesting concept. I would say that's a very Web 2 approach to the Web 3 space, but OpenSea does allow people to use their Visa debit, so it has to be credit card, but already to purchase NFTs. But the way it works is you're using your credit card to actually purchase the crypto, which you then use the crypto to buy the NFT, so everything's on chain. What are your thoughts around that, Karen, and the idea of ease of access, right? And I think that is an ongoing debate within the space. How easy should we make it?
Well, I think for now it's important to take a look at the UX right now, because I think that a lot of Web3 projects, they're just not as seamless as Web2 apps, whether it's a browser app or on your phone. So either we have to really simplify the process for Web2 people, or somehow we have to educate people about Web3. Because I know, like, personally speaking, as a newbie, it was so weird for me to navigate to websites and then to see Connect Wallet, and that made like no sense to me.
And it can even be a
So
little
I think
scary at
really we
first.
need,
Some people overthink
yeah,
the wallet, you know, and it is something you want to be cognizant of, because some sites you don't want to connect your wallet to.
yeah. I mean, I think when you are dealing with your real money and then somehow bringing it online, but not through a traditional bank or your bank that you have e-banking with, it is scary, because what if you lose that money? Like, what if you send it to the wrong address? What if you like can't access your wallet anymore? All of this stuff is really scary. So
Mm.
either we need to educate people about it, or we need to find a way to like combine Web 2 and Web 3 experiences somehow.
Yeah. we've had Stefan on the show back in season 1 from the Black Metaverse, and he coined I give him credit. I don't know if he coined the phrase, but he said Web 2.5. And it's the idea of really, bridging that gap between Web 2 and Web 3. And I do think while it's a heated debate, and I generally lean towards not using credit cards to purchase NFTs, but, in that ethos of Web 2.5 and making it a little bit easier for people, there are a lot of platforms that are allowing you to purchase the NFTs with your crypto, and you're not purchasing the NFTs with your credit card directly, but there are some platforms where they actually do kind of frame it as you're purchasing the NFT with your credit card, and then what they usually do is they hold that NFT in a custodial wallet, so you're not actually having it in your own sovereign wallet, and that is definitely a big red flag for some collectors like myself. I want to make sure I have the NFT in my own sovereign wallet that I can then trade, send, own, do whatever I want in the metaverse with. And that's very different than some of these platforms, I'm not going to name any, where you do use a credit card to purchase it, but you can't actually take that NFT and put it into your own sovereign wallet and then sell it very easily. A lot of those type of platforms where they allow credit cards and then they triage your NFT and hold it for you, they also tend to make it a little bit difficult for you to actually sell that NFT and take the revenue out. So that's kind of a red flag generally. And to your point about education, Karen, that's really what it comes down to. That's why I'm pretty passionate about, helping out with onboarding. I'm part of the Dream Conduit DAO, and that's the whole mission of the DAO, is to really help creators and people in the space onboard into Web3 and the blockchain in the right way. And that includes, telling the value of using your own sovereign wallet and not using the credit card route, because when you use the credit card route, on one hand, you also have interest payments often, unless you're right on top of your credit card payments, but often you'll end up, paying even more than you initially did if you're going to pay interest on it after that, right? But beyond that, it's really that transaction of being able to send crypto for the NFT, the seller of the NFT gets the crypto, and most creators and artists in the space want crypto. And so most of the platforms where you do have that option to buy with credit card, it's not really like a direct, you're usually not buying it direct from an artist. You're usually buying it from a platform that's maybe contracted artists to do a big project or to do certain, I've seen it a lot in the music space, certain music NFT sites where, it's very much just all centralized essentially, and they will get the license from specific music artists to be able to make NFTs using their image or whatever, but it's not like you're actually buying the NFT direct from that artist. And I think that's the Web3 transaction, actually having that real, again, peer-to-peer connection and being able to feel like, oh, I supported that individual directly, so that's why we stay away from credit cards generally. I hope that helped you, Rick. Boo custodial wallets, that's what's up. Yeah, no, not a big fan of those custodial wallets. But yeah, what's the NFT market like in Switzerland? It's one of my final questions I have here for you.
Well, for me, when we talk about NFTs, I don't initially think about apes and kitties. I think that in Switzerland, there is what's called Crypto Valley, which is in Zug, and there are a lot of companies building here. But I don't really think that the NFT space here is really revolved around art. I think that people here are more interested in NFTs as a utility token.
Nice.
And not just in Switzerland, I think in Europe. So I think maybe we are a little bit past the NFT art space, to be honest with you.
Interesting. So you think they're just more focused on the DeFi, you would say, like the DeFi usages?
Yeah, so people here are really more focused on blockchain technology beyond DeFi, blockchain in DeFi, crypto. I have also attended a Crypto Valley conference, and the only NFT kind of presence there was a company called POAP, where they allow every person who attended to scan a QR code and then essentially get an NFT which proved that they attended the event, and also for the organizers to know like who attended. So we are more, I think, into utility NFTs and not so much into art NFTs, to be honest.
Yeah, I could see that.
From what I've seen in Switzerland and also in Europe, like I think there there is still a hype about the art NFTs, but I think now, professionally speaking, we're looking more at utility NFTs because I think they have a lot of potential. Like you had mentioned, like in gamification and like in ticketing and what we're doing, like in banking. I think that there's a lot more opportunities, and now that kind of hype over board ape, like is kind of like dwindling, and now we're really starting to like understand the power of blockchain and NFTs and smart contracts, and that space is far more interesting than art NFTs, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I like to think of it as all kind of part of the ecosystem and helping each other out, because it all kind of improves the value of crypto, improves the value of the blockchain. Definitely very interested in art on the blockchain personally, and that is a big part of what we focus on here. And looking at the metaverse, I also include 3D architecture, 3D building as part of that art on the blockchain as well, and being able to sell and trade those digital assets. But to your point, yeah, POAP, that's the proof of attendance protocol. They're a very cool functional utility. Really just any events, anything you're doing, you can create a POAP for it and really have that, certificate, that NFT, non-fungible token on the blockchain saying, I was here at this event on this day and this is what it was about. So I've got an okay POAP collection, but I definitely need to start increasing it, because there's sometimes I get to events and I forget to grab the POAP in the metaverse. I got to get those because they might be worth value one day. I got one. I remember Jay-Z had the I think it was the 25th or the 30th anniversary of his Reasonable Doubt CD, and he had a really cool art space in Decentraland. So that was one of the few POAPs that I was able to get. And I'm thinking, that could be worth something one day. You never know. That was a pretty cool anniversary for Reasonable Doubt.
That's true. It could be worth something one day.
Yeah, but even if not, just it's a really cool concept as far as your point around utility and just being able to have kind of an attendance token or proof of attendance showing where you were on a specific date. So we got one more follow-up here from Meta Screenplays. He says, newbies like me need use cases to understand the life cycle of getting involved with the NFTs, from purchasing, minting, and collecting to creating, trading, and resale. There's still so much to know. Thank you, Rick, for sticking with us and learning. Definitely feel free to ask any questions. Focusing on the global market, like you were saying, and you mentioned, I think before the show actually started, kind of targeting the unbanked, targeting the people that have, real pain points with the banking industry. And, as I've spoken to a lot when I talk about the creator economy and these peer-to-peer over the blockchain, being able to avoid those antiquated banking systems. Who benefits the most? I look at the artists in Nigeria and Ghana, artists in South America, India, Malaysia, who really, it's just huge. And getting that US dollar exchange rate, right? So even stuff that sometimes doesn't seem like that much to us ends up having a bigger impact in these other corners of the world. So how are you tackling that, and how are you trying to reach out into these corners of the world with Fiat24 and offering this kind of crypto banking solution?
Yeah, so I would like to say that even though we are based in Switzerland, Switzerland is not really our target market, because Switzerland is also famous for notoriously being kind of an isolated country. So we are in the midst of the EU, but we are not part of the EU. And the Swiss franc is pretty stable. Everyone is pretty well banked. So we don't really, we're not really focused on the market that we have here locally. And from what I personally have learned is like countries like Argentina, perhaps, where the government really has the potential to manipulate their currency. Maybe they don't even, there's a lot of people who are unbanked, but they do have cell phones and they do have an internet connection. I think that for those people, cryptocurrencies would be really valuable. So for some people, they're unable to have the bank accounts that we have, maybe in countries like the US or Switzerland or even Canada. Or maybe if they do, maybe they're not really allowed to hold like US dollar, because the government wants to force people to hold their local currency, which is manipulated and inflated as they wish politically.
Right.
So I think that beyond just our service, I think that digital currencies and Bitcoin could really be a good solution worldwide.
I agree. And I
I mean,
think
that's the dream, really.
that is the dream. And it's interesting because on one hand, to your point about, the apes and the kitties and the insane valuation of some of these NFTs, and we know that that's being driven, obviously, well, I shouldn't say obvious because it's not just one corner of the world, but it's driven largely by American and Western investors. But there are definitely, some in Hong Kong, Southeast Asia. There are NFT collectors in other corners of the world that are well financed. But we see a lot of the quote unquote degen community, especially the English speaking, degen community, and their ability to really prop up some of these projects with insane amounts of money and liquidity, and then, benefit from all of the ups and downs of that market. And it's a really interesting space that, to your point, is probably calling out for some kind of regulation and might not exist in that form forever. But, it's weird because that's what the kind of lifeblood of the system is right now. But at the same time, those same people turn around and say our blockchain technology relies on the third world, or the developing world, as I should say, and they acknowledge that they want these corners of the world to embrace blockchain and embrace the radical, revolution that will come from not having to rely on their messed up banking, and their messed up central banks that have just devalued their currency or inflated their currency, whatever the case may be, right? So why aren't the people that are well financed in this NFT space actively investing in African artists, in African developers, and not just African, Indian, Malaysian, like it seems like a no-brainer, right? Like if you really want the technology to take off, to your point with Fiat24 trying to reach the unbanked, and that's good. You're being intentional. You want to reach out to these people that actually need it. But I find it's interesting that a lot of the people, the quote unquote whales in the space that could probably spend a small fraction of their Ethereum or Bitcoin to invest in some of these corners of the world and actually inspire them to take on the blockchain and to take on this technology in new, radical, exciting ways for a relatively small investment that might actually yield returns for them if they just took the time to look at these spaces and actually, try to set up something. And to Cardano's point, I give them credit because they're actually on the ground in Africa trying to set up these kind of micro examples of how the blockchain can actually help a community or a society. So I do give them credit for that. And I'm sure there's a few other, small examples that you can point to. But on a bigger scale, it just seems like a no-brainer. Like if we really want the developing world to embrace blockchain, we should be investing in the developing world embracing blockchain, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that maybe, I guess if we look at the space right now, maybe for us that are in it, we think like, wow, there's a lot of people, like there's a lot of crypto people and so many projects, and the competition is tough. But if we look at it on a global scale, if you go out right now and talk to someone about crypto, I'm not sure that they fully understand what we're talking about, right? And I think the
Definitely.
people that are invested right now and the people who are playing around right now, like maybe they're too comfortable and they do come from the capitalist
Right.
economies,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
They
So
are too
I think
comfortable.
it's
Most
just people
definitely.
trying to make money, or
Yeah.
people that come from traditional finance and they're smart enough to like be in the loop and like they have the disposable income to mess
Exactly.
around.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah, that's how it is right now. But yeah, if people really want it to grow and really want the developing world to embrace this technology, and once the developing world embraces the technology, all it's going to take is like a few of their government. Well, we already saw it with El Salvador, right? Accepting Bitcoin as an official tender. 5-10 more countries do that. Nothing any country does is going to stop Bitcoin, and you would think it's not a huge task to take on, but we'll see. That's the hope. I'm going to put that out in the universe and see what happens. But I agree that it's the developing world that really sees the pain point right now with the banking industry, and they need it. They need these solutions. And I've seen how they are radically benefiting those who have, been able to sell a lot of NFTs, those who have been able to, get money into their communities over the blockchain and actually invest in their communities, create educational opportunities for people who didn't have them before, create technology hubs where they didn't exist before. And this has all been funded by the blockchain. So I think if we see more of that on a micro level in a lot of these developing communities, it'll be amazing, and things will continue to grow the way we want to see them grow, you know? That's what's up. All right. Well, I thank you so much, Karen, for all of the conversation. I think we've tackled a lot of really important points around crypto regulation. I'm actually surprised I haven't talked crypto regulations until now on this show, because it is such an important topic. Our final question we always ask every guest is, what do you say to those that are out there that haven't, like you said, heard about crypto, or maybe they've heard about Web3 and NFTs, but they're skeptical? What have you been kind of telling friends or anyone who, is interested but skeptical about the space, and how would you try to encourage them to get involved?
Well, I think the promise of Web3 is really to find a new way to give power to the people. So for now, I think that we are all happily using such big platforms like even Facebook, as I said before. And somehow we think that, like we own all of our data, but we actually really don't. And I think that Web3 offers something far greater than what we've seen so far. And maybe for now it is kind of just a concept, just like, in the 90s, internet adoption was kind of slow, and then people didn't really understand like the full power of what it could do. I think we're now really at the cusp of what Web3 can offer. And I know, personally speaking, as someone who is new to the space, it can be really daunting to even get started and to learn everything. And maybe you feel like you need to come from a finance background to understand about crypto and crypto investing and learning about the markets. But if you have any kind of interest at all, there are so many places where you could learn. There's Discord, and there's Twitter, and there's YouTube. And now there are even some blockchain and crypto academies where you can take courses. So I think if you have any even kind of minimal interest, even if you're not a tech person or a finance person, I think it's really worth looking into, because for sure, one way or another, it's going to be our future. So.
That's it. One way or another, the technology is going to be impacting you soon. So jump on the wave. And yeah, it's amazing. Thank you so much, Karen. I think with that, we're going to wrap it up, and we will be live again next Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern, talking to some more artists, and really looking forward to that. But thank you so much, Karen. That was a really important conversation about crypto regulations and where we see the space going and evolving. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, Karen. Until next time, we'll catch you in the metaverse. Peace out.
Bye.